Members, good morning. It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the panel on transport. Agenda item 1, information papers issued since the last meeting. The first paper is one from Mr. Aaron BOK, dated the 12th of February 2026, on transport strategy blueprint, in which Mr. BOK presents his supplementary comments on the matter. The second paper is a letter from Captain Lothair LAM, dated the 17th of March 2026, concerning ways to assist public transport trades in alleviating the issue of persistently soaring operating costs. I'll ask Captain LAM to say a few words about this. Thank you, Chairman. The main reason why I submitted this paper is because of the ongoing tensions in the Middle East. It has caused international oil prices to surge, leading to higher fuel costs in Hong Kong and a continuous rise in operating costs for the public transport sector and other transport industries. Some airline companies have even increased their fuel surcharges by 3 to 4 times. This has greatly driven the costs for the relevant industries. I hope the government can propose measures for discussion and implement policies or initiatives to help the industry weather this crisis. Thank you. The situation arose very quickly, and this is a critical issue. Therefore, I asked the Secretariat to forward your request to the government right away. I hope the government will first provide an information paper or a written response, and after reviewing the response, we will make further arrangements. All right? Thank you, Chairman. Members, please note the 2 above-mentioned papers. Agenda item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next meeting will be held on the 20th of April from 10:45 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. There will be 3 discussion items. First, lift and pedestrian walkway system between Lai King Hill Road and Lai Chou Road, Kwai Chung. Second, legislative proposal to regulate new land-based mass transit systems. That is a legislative proposal to regulate green mass transit systems. Third, MTR fare adjustment for 2026. These will be the 3 discussion items for the next meeting. The Secretariat has already talked to the administration about this. There will be 3 discussion items in the next meeting. If we cannot finish all these items, there will be a special meeting on the 27th of April at 4:30 p.m. Please save the time for this. If we cannot finish the 3 discussion items, there will be an extra meeting on the 27th of April. I'll keep this time slot open for now. Do members have any questions? If not, I will invite representatives from the administration to come in.
Yes, and we will be discussing the franchise of the 2 bus companies. Yes, please come into the room for the administration. Yes, we have the Deputy Secretary from the Transport Department and your team. Yes, can I invite the Transport Department before you speak on this issue? I will first ask the members to indicate your interest to speak, to ask questions. And would you please bring us through the paper? Yes, we can do so. Today, we are here to report the operation situation of the 2 bus franchisees and also with the new franchises relevant issues. Now, for the land or road-based transport, the franchise buses is the highest carrying capacity, and it has a daily patronage of nearly 3.8 million. And there are the KMB as well as the new Lantao bus. The latter is in the Shenzhen Bay and Yuen Long and in the new Lantao area. And in 2027, NLB's current franchise, which commenced March 1st, 2017, will expire on March 1st, 2027, and KMB's commenced on July 1st, 2017, expiring July 1st, 2027. And there had been performance standards as well as surveys concerning passenger satisfaction, and also there had been regular review of their performance standards. And also, we have provided a summary of the performance of KMB and NLB on overall operations, and also the passenger service improvement, safety enhancement, and environmentally friendly buses, etc. Now, both the franchisees have indicated they want to continue with the franchises after the expiry of their present ones. For franchise buses, it is a capital or investment-intensive business. The franchisees or operators will have to have asset investments, including new buses, purchases, passenger safety measures, and also optimizing the buses' services, etc. So we will have to provide stability to bus services and provide a standard of safety and also financial stability of the franchisees, and also new energy buses introduction, and also mobile phone apps for passengers, and also fare concessions, and also smart transport, etc. So we welcome your questions and comments concerning the operation of the two franchisees or operators, Kowloon Motor Bus Limited and New Lantao Bus Limited. We welcome your thoughts and comments. So this is a list of members who will be speaking: Chen Ha-kong, Chong Ho-fong, Adrian Ho, Lothair LAM, Tam Chun Kwang, Chow Siu-chung, Yu Pak-leung, Chang Pui-kong, Christine Fong, Eric Yim, Lam Wai-kong, Alan Chan, Chen Han-pan, and after that, I will be drawing the line because I have to control the time. 4 minutes Q&A. Chen Han-pan, I have 3 questions. First of all, the waiting time for buses, actually the citizens can actually look at the bus stop screen, or actually they can refer to their mobile phones. But for the bus stop screens, we were told that very often the time is the indication is wrong. And also for the screen, the advertisements are 65 or is a big part of the screen, and the information is just 1/6 of the area of the screen. And especially for the elderly, it's very difficult for them to read the information. So for KMB, perhaps a bus information should be made larger and advertisement area smaller. Second question, there will be 470 million from the government, which will be put to use by the operators to purchase new buses. So it is perhaps there can be discussions with the operators so that the renewal of the fleet can be faster. For electric bus, actually they are cheaper than when they were first produced or introduced. And also with the fuel price situation like this, there are advantages for using e-buses, and also for the air quality, of course, will be better as well. Just now, third question, we have mentioned the oil prices and its effect on fuel. Now, I thought that there is some efficacy for the cushion. That is, there is a fund for offsetting fuel price hikes and fare levels, so that fare levels do not need to be raised so high despite the fuel price increase. So how is this fund used by KMB, for instance, this emergency fund or this tunnel fund? Yes, for certain operators, they have a zero fund reserve. Yes, I will ask the Transport Department to answer the question on the tunnel fund. For your first question on the buses, platform, the bus stop screens, that the advertisements area is too big and it's not telling accurate time, etc. Yes, the advertisements, of course, help the finances of the bus companies, and therefore it helps with reasonable fare prices. But of course, the advertisement shouldn't cover the information. We'll be talking to the operators about that. Second question, yes, fleet renewal. It is true. For the environmental and ecological department, in their consideration, they consider operation costs and also the bus prices. And now we also have the fuel price to consider and electricity tariff to consider. But they have taken this into account. Now, for the fleet's age, for the age, if the age is not up yet and there is a new bus purchased, then this would actually adversely affect the fare level. But of course, if electric cars can be more competitive in pricing, then we would want them to go for new energy buses. As for the tunnel fund question, in 2019, we have set that up and we have exempted the franchise buses from paying tunnel fare, and that had been the fare or the fee had been put into a fund. Since the establishment of this fund in 2019, we have used this fund a number of times to adjust for fare increases, and we have used 1.2 billion in total to retard the fare increase. For 2025, when KMB was approved for fare increase, they were asked to use a reserve for the fund or tunnel fund to lower from 5.2% to 4.3% of fare increase, and will continue to use this mechanism. Next, Chong Ho Fong. Thank you. Yes, the two operators and franchises will run out next year. So the discussion is about whether we extend them, but actually there is no choice. There are no other takers, and it's hard to make money for that kind of bus service. Now, just now, Chahakan had also mentioned the KMB, the non-bus information app. I have personal experience. Sometimes I have to look at over 10 seconds of advertisements before I get any bus information, because very often time is of the essence. I need to know at a road junction which way I go, left or right, to catch a bus. So time is important. Not to exclude all advertisements, but can they be in banner form at the bottom of the screen, for example? Another question, of course, we are very concerned about the fare adjustment mechanism. The MTR runs very well. It is pegged to the staff cost and inflation, etc. But not so for buses. Every time they have to go to the Executive Council for approval. And also, they raise their fares once every few years. And the citizens at large feel that there is a huge rise, and also they cannot have that foresight as to the adjustments. Perhaps that can be done on an annual basis. Now, for the light rail, there is already this pet-friendly program so that pets can also ride on the light rail, and also now it's extended onto heavy rail. I was there as well. It was quite popular. So the whole trend is towards pet friendliness. Even for the government, there is a pet policy admitting pets into restaurants. So this is the future direction, as we can see. Now, for franchise buses, no pets are allowed. Even for KMB at specific routes, they are using non-franchise buses for specific routes where they admit pets. Will this be liberalized so that the bus companies can be the gatekeepers? Under what situation can pets be allowed onto the bus? Would you want to leave time for answers? Well, 10 more seconds. Thank you, Chair. Now, if buses lag behind, then the market would be gained by rail. That's my point. All right, for fare adjustment, the Undersecretary will answer that question later.
For the apps, the advertisement on the apps, I agree with your views. Quickly, we will discuss it with KMB. Hopefully, even if they were to feature ads, they should not affect the visibility of the information. As for pets on board, right now, under the bus ordinance, pets are not allowed on board for franchise buses. You understand, for franchised buses, there's limited room on the bus, and no designated compartments for pets. So therefore, of course, we're open to views, but at the same time, we need to strike a good balance, balancing the welfare of passengers and pet lovers. Please be concise, Deputy Secretary. So how about the fare mechanism? MTRC and buses, their operational mode and services differ. Therefore, for buses, the fare adjustment mechanism, besides considering the index used and also inflation figure, we also consider a basket of factors, including their operating costs, the future expected revenue return, their reasonable return, and also affordability of the public, and also since the last fare increase, changes in the operating costs. So after considering the basket of factors, we think that the current arrangement is flexible. And that if there's a need to raise the fare, we can try to get the balance right. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I've got two questions. Recently, the Transport Department in new development areas would open long and short routes and to be operated by the successful bidding operators. But now society is concerned about, like in old districts, for some non-profit making short routes would cease operation. So that is long distance routes would need to cater to passengers going to different destinations, and that could affect the use of public money. So would you, at the administration, with the renewal of the franchises, can you communicate with the operators and try to optimize the relevant equipment on board, and also to encourage the operators to have rationalization of routes? And also Hong Kong's transportation uses railway as the backbone. And so I'd like to ask the administration, have you coordinated with the operators to ensure that they have adequate capacity to play the role of a transportation provider? About long distance journey or long distance routes taken by passengers going to nearby destinations, it doesn't apply. It's an issue not applicable only to franchise buses. We are also talking to other operators. We have launched the scheme to charge the fares by distances for the relevant routes, we do expect the operators to charge fares on different sections, depending on the sectional basis. That is, if the long distance buses, if they can, we will consider also whether they can rationalize the routes. And for second question, I'll ask Transport Department's Mr. Patrick Wong to answer. In our route development plan, all along, we've been looking at the growing influence of railway transportation. We have discussed with bus companies about route rationalization, and the bus companies do provide us with input. And in new development areas and in places whether there are railway stations, we'll discuss with the bus companies to provide other connections and also even provide services in places without railway services. Lothair LAM. Well, I think since bus companies are struggling in their operations, the government encourage bus companies to derive from the services non-fare revenue. So bus now have advertisements on the apps and also at bus stops. So have you discussed with the bus companies how to open up more chances for non-fare revenue? And is there such demand from bus companies? For example, in bus interchange stops, there could be convenience stores to be set up. Have you considered other ways to increase the non-fare revenue of bus companies? And also for the temporary land used by bus companies, even though they have depots, but besides the new Lantao bus, the two other bus companies, they do have a big need for bus repair maintenance, so they need the space. If every time buses have to go to depot for maintenance and repair, services could be affected. And bus companies told us that the land that they had rent from the government have a short tenancy period, so they're not willing to invest in those rental land. So would the government consider granting bus companies land or extend the period of land they can rent to help them do repair and maintenance work? And also, KM Bus actually initiated more than 1,000 projects to enhance their efficiency. But the number of buses has been reduced by 200. So how can they, by reducing the number of buses, enhance their operational efficiency? And paragraph 7 in the paper talk about the number of complaints received by the two companies. They number about 10. So what types of complaints were they? Question 3 and 4. I'll ask colleagues from the Transport Department to answer. As for non-fare revenue, all along we support and encourage bus companies to generate more non-fare revenue to reduce the pressure for raising fare. So policy-wise, no doubt about that. As for ads, besides ads, indeed, there can be other ways to generate revenue, like as you said, as some major bus stops, we might allow them to set up vending machines or couriers collection points to help them generate additional income. And also bus depots can also open up their charging facilities to other non-bus vehicles. So we would discuss with bus companies. We're open to any suggestions from bus companies to increase their revenue. We would support all sorts of options. And as for extending the rental period of land for bus companies, and this is constrained by the government's policy on short-term tenancy. But I know that the Development Bureau is now reviewing the policy concern. If there are any new ideas, new plans, we hope that we can make use of the new policy and try to extend the period of rental land to facilitate investment by the bus companies. So Transport Department, please. As for the rationalization of bus routes, we all know that our transportation policy is that the railway should be the backbone of public transport. So in the past few years, in terms of public transportation, our railway development has kept expanding. And we know that in light of the competition in the field, so we are helping bus companies to have a healthy operating environment. So if there's enough patronage, we would, depending on suggestions from bus companies, to approve their rationalization to make sure that they have better operational efficiency, and that did lead to a decline in the number of buses. Complaints, yes. As for complaints against the bus companies, KMB and NLB have different operational areas. KMB is the largest franchise bus company, and they do have buses running on busy roads, so their patronage is much higher. Therefore, their complaint numbers cannot be strictly compared with that of New Lantao bus, but the number is low nonetheless. Tam Chen Kwok. I think bus services to people living in the Northern New Territories are very important. I and my team every day receives views from the public, residents there, about bus services. First of all, about the incentive or $2 concession for elderly people for a bus route or distance that costs more than $10. The $2 will become 20%. So elderly people tell us that they will have to pay more, and for some routes they need to pay double for them to go to the urban areas to see their grandchildren. I think it's a good policy, virtuous policy, to give elderly people the concessionary fare of $2. And I think bus companies should shoulder their corporate responsibility. So would you then consider that is extend the half price for elderly people age 65 above, extend this policy to those age 60? And also, Secretary, could you ask bus companies to offer the policy or to charge differently for different routes more, so as to reduce the pressure on the passengers? Chairman, this $2 concessionary policy is launched by the Welfare Bureau to encourage elderly people go out more and integrate into the society. But this policy brings much financial burden to the government. As for bus companies, for those age 65 or above, they are providing half-price concession. If such concession is to expand it to those age 60, that will increase the financial pressure on them, so in the long run, and that will be reflected in the fare also. Therefore, we need to be very cautious, because that definitely will have an impact on the fare. If the fare goes up further, then that would have a bigger impact on the general public. As I said, charging fares by distances, we would, again, as I said, when the time is right, when the conditions are right, we'll expect the bus companies to implement that policy. Chang Xiu-chung, thank you. The government all along has always relied on railway as the backbone of public transport, and that reduces the patronage or the sources of passengers for bus companies. For KMB, in terms of its revenue, even though it's not making a loss, but in the past few years, its profits have kept dropping. And we can't expect its profits to go back to the pre-pandemic level. So looking at the bus companies' operations, if profits continue to drop, then there will be heavy pressure to increase fares, and the package for staff would not be improved, and neither would the bus companies have the ability to replace old buses with new ones or upgrade its equipment. Paragraph 12, as suggested by the Secretary, that is your measures to encourage bus companies to explore non-fare box revenue. Have you got any data to show us how much has that helped with the operations of bus companies? And also, can you be more proactive? That is, when new franchises are offered, can you be more open, allowing bus companies to provide a broader range of services so that they can have more non-fare box revenue? Because otherwise the pressure to increase fare will increase. And also paragraph 6, it talks about a lost trip situation that is a rate of 2.8 lost trip rate. How should we look at this compared to their counterparts or compared to other countries? How serious is it, with such lost trip rate? And also, besides the pandemic, I think lost trip rate also has to do with the adequacy of bus captains. So in the new contracts, would you consider requiring or attaching conditions requiring bus companies to give bus captains a reasonable remuneration package so we have a stable team supply of bus captains to serve the public?
For the second question, the Transport Department will answer that question. As for the income for non-fare sources, there are non-fare income that are related to bus services, and we will support these sources of income. For example, for the interchange for public transport, perhaps there can be some commercial activities which can be undertaken by them. Now, I don't want there to be a repeat of the answer. Let me see whether the Transport Department has certain numbers. If you have the numbers, share them. Well, thank you, Mr. Zhao, for the question. Concerning numbers for non-fare income, this is released in the financial report. For KMB, it is about 4%. And for 2024, it was 280 million. And for New Lantao, it was 12 million. And for non-fare income, as mentioned just now, there will be continued development in this area, hopefully with more income sources. As for lost trip, for KMB, it is 2.8%. And as Mr. Zhao mentioned, there are a number of factors concerned. Now, lack of drivers is a problem. Especially for this year, there had been some improvement, and attrition rate had been lower, and the absentee rate had been lower for drivers as well. So this is definitely a factor, and we have been talking to the bus companies concerning drivers' rest time, etc., so that the rest time can be assured that they can have sufficient rest so as to be able to drive safely. Yes, Yu Pak Leung. Just on the electric bus scheme, my question is, for a franchise bus service, it is now $400,000 and $800,000, or for single-story or double-story buses subsidy, or 25% of subsidy of the cost. And it is said that there will be, in the next 3 years, there will be 300 new buses purchased, but that is just 8% of the fleet. So this renewal pace doesn't seem to have picked up. For electric buses, is it because of the cost of these electric buses or the performance of them? Why, my question is, the pace is so slow, even with the scheme? And also, we see that for KMB, the tour buses, the double-decker, top-deck open tour buses, we see that it is very interesting. There are some crossovers and also feral cat themed buses. These are all very creative, and they should be further extended and promoted. In the future, it can be even outside of the city routes, for example, in the rural areas or in the northern metropolis, there can be these tour buses provided. Now, as for New Lantao bus, I have a couple of comments. We see the passenger volume increasing. But apart from local residents going to Lantao, we also have a lot of tourists going to Lantao, especially over weekends and vacations. In the past, we have observed that there are some important stops, major stops, where there is a lot of people queuing up, especially in Pakongam, and where these are hiking hotspots, there are long queues. So should there be a service KPI, let's say during weekends and holidays, that the new Lantao bus be able to cater for these crowds? For electric buses, the renewal rate being low, my colleague will answer that question. As for tourist buses, we are in agreement. We will be talking to the bus companies to see how they can extend the tour bus service. For new Lantao bus, for the certain bus stops, there are holiday special measures. The Transport Department is also talking to them. They can use the non-franchise bus to help with carrying the crowds. And perhaps that will improve the passenger experience. Yes, we are in agreement with that. We will be talking further with new Lantao bus. Yes, as for the other question, of course, we're in support of the policy from the Environmental Department for new energy, especially for public transport. So for very early on, even before the franchise, we have suggested to them that they purchase new buses in the form of environmentally buses. And of course, we want them to change to electric buses. But for bus fleet management, yes, our department has a regulatory role over that. We want there to be healthy growth of the fleet rather than to change a lot of buses in the same year so that they will have to be retired in the same year. We want there to be stability of service. So we will be looking together with the bus companies at their fleet. Where necessary, they will be renewing part of their fleet. Next, Cheung Pui Kong. Thank you, Chair. I'm worried that the fuel cost hike would be passed on to the passengers. Even for franchise buses, they are bringing in other energy, such as green energy buses. But at present, they are still relying on fuel. And we know that for fuel prices, it is spiking. So my question is, how does the government play the gatekeeper role well? With fuel price increases, would the buses be passing on that increase to the passengers by raising fares, please? Chair, as mentioned by my team just now, the mechanism for bus fare increases. Fuel price spike is very real, and we want the bus companies to be sustainable in their finances. And of course, their costs will have to be considered in fixing the fares. So it is rather inevitable where fuel prices increase, it would impact their operation costs, and it will be reflected in the fares. It can happen. But for our fare adjustment mechanism, there are other factors, a basket of them, and also the affordability of the citizens of Hong Kong would also be considered. And therefore, in approving or deliberating the application for fare increases, we will, of course, take these factors into account. Christine Fong, thank you, Chair. For bus development, we would want to see more new energy buses introduced. I'm looking at the paper for smart bus subsidy scheme. Single story 400,000, double decker 800,000, and by 2027 there'll be 700 such buses. Now for Anderson or hill routes or far away routes, the bus companies are now introducing traditional fuel buses. I understand the point made just now. It's hard to replace the buses in the fleet all in one go, so there will have to be a balance. Now, the government is providing subsidies for long-haul bus routes and $2 rides. So there is a lot of resources involved. Perhaps the bus companies can also put in some smart platforms. There are no bus there may be apps, but there are no complaints collection platforms. For example, for lost trips, there should be data to reflect that, and the bus companies should proactively follow up. But of course, where there are roadside accidents and there may be delays, those we can understand. Now, also, the reviews for bus services are taking too long. Anderson Road, for example, there's 11X and 23E or 600 bus coming to Central. Anderson Hill is always insufficient in bus service, and there are complaints from the residents every day. So in extending their franchise, perhaps the administration can shorten the time for review, let's say to half a year. And also, where there is insufficient bus service every day and your review takes half a year, that's not right. You need to be more flexible. And also, for long routes with short route fares, even though the $2 concession scheme, perhaps even there is education, but even at the bus stop, can you perhaps put in information so that everybody is more cognizant of the use? Ms. Fong, do you want to leave some time for answers, please? Yes. Route 96 and 28D, perhaps there can be, for long routes, there can be sectional fares. All right, for Anderson Road, for this particular route, KMB had been using electric vehicles, electric bus. Where these buses are being maintained, then there can be, for temporarily, replacement by fuel buses, traditional fuel buses, because after all, KMB only has 70 of these electric buses. As for apps, we hear Ms. Fong. Yes, we want to use more technology, and we'll be talking to KMB about technology-based complaints, lodging, and handling. As for the last question, we are talking to the Social Welfare Department, and yes, we will be doing that in the future. Now, as for routes, strengthening routes or reconfiguring routes, we don't have to wait for the annual route planning session, and where there is consensus and need after talking to the bus company, we can do it even interim. Next, Eric Yim. Thank you, Chair. For the 470 million government subsidy, it goes until the end of 2027 with 600 buses in mind. So how much had been spent, please? Are you confident that this can be completed by 2027 to have replaced 600 buses? And also for the hydrogen bus, there is already a 2-year operation. So what is the present situation with hydrogen buses? And also, there are other fuel-driven buses in in the market. And also for the 1st of April, for the $2 fare, have you assessed what the impact would be for the bus companies? Yes, this may affect the subsidy for the buses as well. Would they actually, through adjusting the fares to balance their own finances and budget? Well, for electric buses, I will ask my colleague to answer the question. For hydrogen buses, the operation after testing seems fine. But for hydrogen buses, the price of such buses are really hugely different from diesel buses. So can it be used en masse? Well, it's dubious. Even the bus companies are not very proactive about this. So definitely they are taking this into consideration. As for HCHO buses, that is something new. Well, now for the scheme that you have mentioned, we have wanted the bus companies to buy the new buses as soon as possible, 600 of them in total. And their response is that they're proactively doing that, and by 2027 they would have need to place their orders. So by 2029 the bus would have arrived at the company, so we're not allowing a whole lot of time there.
How many electric buses have you booked so far? Do you have the figure? How many have you ordered? Through the subsidy, it will be 600 buses. City Bus, KMB, and NLB. That's the goal, but how many have you ordered so far? As mentioned by the Commissioner, since the government and bus companies have just signed the agreement on the subsidy, and bus companies will actually invite tendering. So you haven't reached your target yet. As for $2 and 20% off, or 80% off, in the past, because of taking short rides on long-haul journey, that undermines the effectiveness of the scheme, and also affect the amount of subsidy from the government. The figures actually, the fact remains that the government is still subsidizing 80% of the fare. So whether that could actually, the new policy would reduce the number of passengers, I think the impact would not be noticeable or big. Next one is Ellen Chen. I've noticed that for franchises of KMB and NLB, you consider the overall services for the public. So would you consider treatment of staff as one condition for renewing the franchises? Because bus companies rely on a lot frontline drivers. So are they offering reasonable, appropriate remuneration and reasonable working conditions and working hours and rest time or rest facilities? And for newly recruited bus captains, are they offering them with reasonable training? I think these are factors that can be considered in renewing their franchises. And secondly, I've noticed that, as mentioned by some residents, about concession for interchange. Now, franchise buses cannot change to the bus routes of other franchise bus stops of other franchise buses. So if I interchange to another franchise bus stop, I have to pay a whole new fare. So would you offer or ask these franchise buses to offer more concessions to people changing franchise buses so they can save money? And also, quite a number of members have also mentioned, and they're concerned about the operating cost of non-revenue or non-fare box service. Would you set up a steering group so that you can plan with the bus companies together to generate more non-fare box revenue so that employees can get reasonable return? And lately, KMB or City Bus on skyrocketing oil prices asked their bus captains to save fuel, for example, turning off the air conditioning and so forth. I think our labor unions have told us that this arrangement is really poses hidden risk to the safety of bus captains. So I hope that the Bureau can follow up on this matter to address the situation. Thank you. The 3 questions raised by Lam Wai Kong, I'll ask the Transport Department to supplement on the measures to save fuel. As far as we know, this is an environmental friendly policy, and also it's only is carried out in a humane way. That is, the bus drivers are only advised to turn off the air conditioning when it is appropriate to. So it's not a mandatory policy on the drivers. As for the remuneration for bus captains, we are concerned about that, and we have issued guidelines, requirements for bus companies to follow. For example, at new bus stops, there are some permanent toilets and also air-conditioned petitions for bus drivers to rest at bus stops, and also working hours and so forth. We have also issued guidelines regulating on the maximum driving hours and rest time in between. And in renewing the franchises, we will actually issue professional guidelines asking the bus companies to follow. We will follow up on that. And secondly, on concessions for bus interchange. In the past, with various bus companies, that's what we have tried to discuss with them. Like for some cross harbor tunnel routes, there are actually interchange concessions. But of course, for different routes, there may be commercial considerations. But going forward, we'll consider to discuss the issue with bus companies on non-fare box revenue. We'll continue also to discuss it and see what can be done together with the bus companies. Next one is Alan Chen. I'm just worried, and in that you can see for the franchises, the data about them in 2020, dating actually from 2023-24. So we are a bit lagging behind in terms of the collection of data. For now, with the inflation being low, and now with the Gulf War, the oil prices may continue to go up, so operating costs could increase. So I'm worried that the Bureau may not be in a position to have good bargains with bus companies. Now, do you think there are any ways for you to, like the railway operators, to install a fare adjustment mechanism to be operated on an annual basis and not to have the fare be renewed 3-4 years later? Because often, if you have an annual mechanism, that would be good, and you can have a review then 3-4 years later. And my other question is, how do you resolve the issue of rising operating costs? I think the only way is to review the routes. That is, you have to consider the patronage during weekdays and also at weekends. Like from Monday to Friday, Tuen Mun to Central Route. Similar routes like this, circular routes, cannot be offered the whole week long. So can you issue a indicator, for example, if there's any difference in prices in the fares, 20% difference in fares, then you can offer some routes only during weekdays. And also, as for replacement of buses, now oil prices are expected to continue to surge and maintenance costs being lower for electric vehicles, would you consider in one go raise the quota to encourage bus companies to replace their vehicles in one go, so that in the long run the fare would not be under as much pressure? And this is a good approach because bus services actually are usually taken by people with low, medium level income. So you may encourage bus companies to buy 500, 600 buses in one go, particularly with the breakthrough in the battery technology. Charging may only take 10 minutes of the vehicles for it to run for the whole day. So you can really have large-scale replacement now. Okay, 3 questions, and second question can be answered by the Transport Department. As for data lagging behind, there's no rule on having a review every 3 years. Any fare adjustment or increase proposal can be made by the bus companies anytime. It's up to them when they see the need to suggest to the government to raise the fare, and the government will deal with it according to the existing mechanism. I'm sure once an application for increase is made, we would need to deal with it soon. As for one-off replacement of all vehicles, we do want the bus fleet to comprise vehicles of different ages, so that operational-wise, the companies can have more flexibility. And also, one-off replacement involves huge investment. Bus companies, in the light of today's operating environment, I don't think bus companies can have so much money at their disposal. And to the government, it also involves a lot of or heavy subsidy. So one-off replacement of buses is just not practical. Commissioner? As for review of bus routes, our thinking is similar to that of Mr. Chen. Internally, on various routes, during peak hours, the peak 1 or 2 hours, if patronage is exceedingly high or very low, then we will review the route itself. You may see that our bus network for particular routes, there are XP routes, it's in response to particular demand in particular hours. So those designated routes will not run for the whole day on the same route. So that's for the sake of efficient use of resources. Holden Chow, many colleagues today expressed their concern about continuous surge in oil prices and increasing the financial burden on the passengers. I know the administration has responded to this issue several times, but I want to express clearly our concern about the possible impact on bus fare and our worry. So I hope that you would take on board our views. And also on the review of bus routes, it's mentioned just now that I think some passengers, I'm sure you've heard me say this before, lately in Tuen Mun, Sokun Fat's population has kept rising. Because there's no other options for residents, people have to rely on bus services there to come to the city. So we don't want to see more bus routes made available to residents there so that they can directly come to the city, like to Tuen Mun or Kowloon. Passengers are fair because they told me that they don't expect bus companies to offer them a route that runs 24 hours a day because they are concerned about cost effectiveness on the part of the bus companies. But for some routes during peak hours, like KMB has the 61p in the morning, it is a very popular bus route, and there are only frequencies of 3 such services in the morning. So the passengers are asking if they increase the frequency of this busy route, and that can be of help to the residents going to work in the morning. And from Sokun Fat to Tuen Mun, they have to change bus. That could be another option. And then they need to go to the MTR station again to change to train. But would you consider, with the growing population, provide more bus routes taking passengers directly to Kowloon? So that's the thinking of passengers because of the practical needs. I think you can make adjustments you understand that it's not just So-Kun Fat alone. That's just one example to let you know that in the absence of other transportation modes, people have to rely on bus so heavily for convenience sake. So I'm just like you to consider that. Transport Department, please. Thank you, Mr. Chow. We have communicated several times, and on So-Kun Fat, we have noticed that some residents have newly moved into the area, so you don't need to wait for any development plan to come out. If there's a need, we will talk to bus companies to improve on the provision of services. As for the whole day long route, taking people to a interchange in Tuen Mun or to Tuen Wan, that's also an option. Take the case of KMB at the interchange station. Passengers can change to a number of transport or other transport modes. But your views are noted. If there are other demands from passengers, we will see whether we should increase the frequency or beef up existing services.
Next, Kenneth Lau. Technology advances fast. So I think this upgrade is important, and definitely auto driving is the way for the future. Bus is a major public transport mode in Hong Kong. There should be more commitment to smart transport and auto driving in the future. Now, my question is, for the two operators, are there any KPI for their future development so as to support the transport blueprint so that there can be more smart and auto-driving vehicles in the long run? Just to declare interest, I am a consultant of a company in auto driving, and also USB charging and also Wi-Fi support service for the bus operators. Well, KMB provides free service for 62%, Wi-Fi in 62% of the buses, and 47% for USB charging. So is there a KPI for them to have, say, 100% or over 90% of such service? Now, for smart transport, as published with our transport blueprint, we would want different sectors to utilize technology to enhance their service. Now, as for demand-led smart transport, we would want to talk to the operators to see what routes should be fitted out with this technology. For some of the routes with low passenger in far-off areas, perhaps using technology, it can indicate where the stops are and what are some of the connecting points. So this will enhance experience of passengers, and it is a win-win situation. Within this year, we would want to identify trial routes with the bus operators. Now, as to Wi-Fi service and also USB charging on the bus, of course, the more service there is, the better the experience of the passengers. And in our franchise extension discussion with the operators, we will ask them to provide more services. Now, after I've drawn the line, there are a couple of members who indicated that they would want to speak. So that is Chan Peng and also Julia Lau. So for those, let's have 3 minutes Q&A. Now, Aaron BOK. I'm looking at Annex A of the paper. There are a lot of point-to-point long-haul bus routes, many of them. And there is already the e-pass for all the tunnels, so there is room for more BBI. So is it possible that there can be more high-frequency, short route connections so that there can be these connection shuttles to strengthen bus service so that there is less of the point-to-point long-haul routes? So this is when the bus companies restructure them. So use the connections more. Paragraph 12, it talks about increasing non-fare income. So at the bus stops, there are a lot of advertising panels. For the panels, or part of the panel, perhaps they can be used for behind the panels, perhaps the delivery services, express delivery services, can use them as depots. Now, for green buses and also electric buses, in the future, perhaps we even have to consider hydrogen fuel cell buses as well. Does it attract a lot of investment there? And also the changing of batteries, that is a problem. Now, there are battery as a service. There are such services overseas. So for charging facilities and batteries, they are rented, leased, rather than brought onto the balance sheet of the companies as assets. All right, restructuring of service. My colleague can answer that question. For express delivery, we're actually doing that now. Where conditions allow, we will do more. As for new energy buses, for electric double-decker bus trials, it's been quite mature already. And the bus operators are introducing charging facilities and they're commencing operation. So electric buses is becoming a mainstream. As for changing of batteries and other energy buses, we do not rule them out. But for recharged electric vehicles as buses, they're actually already operating quite well. Yes. Quick answer. Our direction, because with the e-pass, let's say the interconnections right outside of tunnels, we will optimize the passenger waiting area. So there are some bus services which are using these sites, these spots, to connect to long-haul routes. But on the other hand, there are certain sites which will not be suitable for large double-decker buses. For example, on Ting Kau Bridge or just off Ting Kau Bridge. We'll be looking into this to see whether more can be done. Yes, next. Lee Chen-kang. Yes, Chair. Yes, the buses are contracting. Rail is becoming more prevalent. It's already 8% drop from 2017 to 2025. So the bus operators, on the one hand, they have maintenance fees, fuel costs, and bus purchase prices, and also there are new technology that have to adopt as well. So there's a lot of financial burden for the operators. How can you encourage them to bring on more non-fare income sources so it increases? Fare and non-fare income, what is the ratio between the two now? That's a question. Another question. For the bus terminus in the housing authority developments, there are some temporary toilets and rest stops for the captains, but these need to be rented, so it becomes part of the cost of the operators. But perhaps there can be some self-vending machines. There are vending machines, etc., in certain developments as well. Are these also leased? The space for these also leased? Can you provide perhaps a subsidy for these leasings? Thank you, Mr. Lee, for the questions. For non-fare income, we have discussed quite a bit. We will continue to talk to the bus operators concerning this. And for non-fare, it is 4% to 5% of the two franchise bus companies. As for leasing expenses, your other question, because they provide elderly bus fare concession for government sites leasing or using government sites, if they engender certain lease, the lands department actually will levy such lease, but we will repatriate the lease to them. So that is to say, they don't need to pay any rentals. What about housing authority spaces? Because housing authority is not part of the government, the bus companies will therefore have to pay rentals for use of the HA space. Julia Lau, I am KMB TIH Alternate Director, Declaration of Interest here. Now, for myself, pre-COVID, for Hung Kok, I did an exhibition and I raised mobility on demand, and we even have some documents published afterwards. So according to demand situation to provide the public transport service, I understand the problem you mentioned about mobility on demand, but the administration is urged to support this policy, allowing the bus companies to use different modes of buses and transport vehicles. For example, ecotourism, there can be transport services to support these as well, and rural transport. This will help the bus companies to get more income, or maybe not, because provide this kind of transport may be frequent, but with small bus vehicles. But it's something worthwhile thinking about. Well, Chair, of course we will support that. It's already been mentioned in the transport strategy blueprint already, but we hope that the bus companies will support the government to, as soon as possible, implement this. Right, my turn. So what's most frequently discussed is the non-fare income, and also lost trips minimization, and also sectional fares. Now, in the past few years, I have many times talked about arrangements for non-fare income. So it takes two. On the one hand, the companies will have to make the applications, and the government will have to speed up their approval process. And definitely these income sources should be increased. Now, a question. For the franchise model, will you be putting in the proportion of non-fare income? So both sides will have a KPI for increasing this. Now, just now, it's been mentioned it's 4% for KMB, 5% for New Lantao bus for non-fare income portion. So how much do you want to raise this portion so as to lower the fare increases? And also in the new franchise, for this kind of non-fare income, do they allocate this to lower their need for or pressure for fare rises? Next, sectional fares. We see that the different routes of the buses, some will have sectional fares, some not. Some would have longer sections, shorter sections. So it seems very random So would the government request the bus companies as to how they implement sectional fare, that there should be a review of this so that it is standardized? So 2 questions. Second question, Transport Department will answer that question. As for the new franchise, can we put in KPI for non-fare income? We'll go back and think about it, but we'll have to consider the actual reality, whether the KPIs can be reached. Second question, TD will answer.
For sectional fares, we've encouraged bus companies to do that. We're not just waiting for them to make the suggestion, but for some long-haul through routes, if many of the passengers get off halfway through and there is spare capacity, then we will suggest to the bus companies for them to charge sectional fares. So we will discuss with bus companies to try to improve the situation. Yes, so this will actually let them adopt sectional fares depending on their operating situations. But in some routes, if sectional fares can be offered, then the public will be clearer when, they can pay less. I think we don't just look at spare capacity alone. I think you can come up with a set of standards for when sectional fares can be charged. It's okay. No other questions? If not, then we move to the next item. The 4th item is proposed retention of one-time limited chief electrical and mechanical engineer posts in the Transport Department to accelerate the development of autonomous vehicles and application of bus technology. So may I invite the administration to come in? And members with questions, you may press the button. So may I ask the Commissioner, are you ready? If you're ready, you may show us your PowerPoint. Commissioner? Before I ask the Deputy Commissioner to take you through the paper, I want to make an introduction. The paper today is a proposal to the panel for the retention of the post of Chief Electrical and Mechanical Engineer, Autonomous Driving and Bus Technology, a one-time limited post at Directorate Pay Scale Point 1 for a period of 5 years. The post is basically to promote the application of bus technology and wider application of the autonomous driving technology. On July 2nd, 2021, the FC approved the creation of this one-time limited post, and the post would expire by July 1st this year. But the Transport Department still requires the retention of this post to help us monitor and promote autonomous driving and the application of bus technology. Therefore, we are proposing the retention and for another period of 5 years. In promoting autonomous driving, government has always been through policy support, regulatory backing, and financial subsidy to facilitate the development of autonomous driving. In May 2023, we finished amendments to the Road Traffic Ordinance and formulated the Road Traffic Autonomous Vehicles Regulation in 2024. The new regulatory framework for AVs came into effect in March 2024. At the same time, we have published the Code of Practice for Trial and Pilot Use of Autonomous Vehicles. With the new framework, the Transport Department has issued pilot licenses for trials and testing of autonomous vehicles. In the transport strategy blueprint announced early this year, we said that the government would promote the widespread adoption of bus technology, including making autonomous driving be cross-district, be connected with other modes of transport, and to promote the widespread application of autonomous driving technology in the long run. And we'll promote the sector to use Hong Kong as the platform to explore the right-hand wheel market. So in promoting the above work, Transport Department will continue to play a major facilitating and coordinating role. We have just established a working group chaired by me, the Commissioner, that is the working group to promote the autonomous vehicle applications promotion and to advance the relevant work cross-departmentally and in collaboration with industry stakeholders, so as to, from the development and research and testing process, autonomous vehicles can be operating on roads in the future. And we'll continue to regulate and coordinate various autonomous vehicle projects and provide professional support for the relevant parties. As for the application of bus technologies, the retained post will be proactive in using innovation and technology to update safety standards when needed and also enhance the level and reliability of use of bus technologies. I hope that members can support our proposal to retain this post of Chief Electrical and Mechanical Engineer for another 5 years, because its time limit is already within our establishment. So keeping this post will not affect the total establishment. So now I'll ask my colleague to take you through the highlights of our future work in relation to bus technology and autonomous driving. So may I, Ms. Lee, please? Yes. I'll take you through the retention of the Chief Electrical and Mechanical Engineer in light of the Policy Address 2025 and the Strategic Transport Blueprint. They will be the basis of our work. And actually, in the Hong Kong port of the Hong Kong Macau Bridge, and also the cross-district pilot projects also include the Kai-Tak development area spanning Kowloon City and Kwun Tong. And there's also the connection of autonomous vehicles with different modes of transport. We also have testing for remote control of autonomous vehicles, and through expanding our testing, we hope that gradually we can have remote testing and application of autonomous vehicles in the Airport City Link project, as well as the others I just mentioned. And also we are planning the implementation of the project linking West Kowloon Station of the High-Speed Rail and Kowloon Station of the Airport Express. And Transport Department has issued 62 a number of licenses, 62 licenses for autonomous vehicles in West Kowloon Cultural District, and also the Park and Fly car park, and so forth. In the North Lantao project, since late 2024, we have made much progress. We can test 20 vehicles at one time, and after safety assessment, in some routes, we have launched non-commercial passenger taking trials. In some road tests, we have expanded the area to Tung Chung and Sunny Bay. And the autonomous vehicles will, depending on the speed limit, can increase the speed to 50 square miles per hour. And also the working group chaired by the Commissioner involves various experts and other stakeholders and technology experts. We want to make use of all these expertise to promote the sector to carry out testing of autonomous vehicles and to explore various application options. We also step up public education and publicity to enhance public awareness of autonomous driving to reach the goals of the policy address, announced in the policy address and announced in the transport strategy blueprint. And this can help us promote the development of a smart city. For our upcoming work, as in the past, the Transport Department will, through the Smart Transport Fund, promote autonomous driving, and our department will also promote cross-district projects in an orderly manner and carry out testing of carrying passengers, and also promote remote testing and try to promote connectivity with various modes of transport. Our medium-term targets is that Transport Department would promote cross-boundary autonomous vehicle projects such as services via the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge between Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macau. And we also promote the extension of the Airport City Link autonomous transportation system to Tung Chung Town Centre. And we also promote the introduction of multi-scenario autonomous driving trials and uses in the northern metropolis. And as for the promotion of application of bus technologies, franchise buses are an important part of public transportation system here. The patronage makes up 3.8 million people, making up 30% of the total passengers. So we would lay down safety standards for public transport, and also Transport Department together with the franchisees and also with mainland and overseas Transport Department maintain close exchanges with them to be up to date with the latest technology. On the use of new energy, the Transport Department will also take part in a cross-departmental working group on using or bringing in hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. We have wasted no effort in promoting safety devices on buses. More than 5,300 buses, that is 90% of the franchise buses, have installed the speed reduction devices and other devices to enhance the safety level of buses. Transport Department has also strengthened its accident report mechanism. Agree with the bus companies. When an accident happens, we can get to the bottom of the cause of an accident and suggest rectification measures with the bus companies. We hope that we can also install other monitoring systems and also devices and also technical devices and equipment to be installed at newly procured buses. We also ask the bus companies to carry out market research and prototype testing of digital mirrors so as to subject to the testing results and overall effectiveness. They can formulate technical requirements to mandate newly procured franchise buses to be equipped with the relevant systems. And we'll also cautiously come up with new technical requirements for braking, sudden braking. And we also, by stages, in newly procured franchise buses, install similar safety devices and systems. Thank you. We've got 9 members with questions, but we only have half an hour left for this meeting, so each member only have 3 minutes, including question and answer. They are Chong Ho Fung, Aaron Yim, Charles Siu Chung, Lothair LAM, Chen Pui Kong, Aaron BOK, Lam Kong, Ellen Chen, and Christine Fong. Each will have 3 minutes, including the answer. Chong Ho Fung, Chairman, end of last year, we had the we see vehicles coming from Guangdong illegally using the autonomous driving system, and people start to ask why Hong Kong left behind the mainland in using autonomous driving systems. And many of the electric vehicles in use in Hong Kong can easily update the system to tap the autonomous driving system. So I therefore very much support the retention of the post to speed up the use of autonomous driving systems. As for autonomous driving, I've got a question. That is for the operators which are carrying out various tests. Will they share the data with the government, or are they commercial secret? And for fixed routes, they are better suited for autonomous driving. So has the government studied with the bus companies, like in So Kun Fat, in Tuen Mun, that is actually an area very suitable for testing of AVs. And for bus technology, we are most concerned about safety. The government says that 77% of safety issues or injuries are caused by non-collision accidents. So why is that the case? Can technology help reduce the injuries? Commissioner? As for bus safety, I'll ask the Deputy Commissioner to answer. But autonomous driving system, as for sharing of data, we have 6 pilot licenses issued, and some licensees are getting ready. For each licenses, there are licensing conditions. We are most concerned with their submission to us on a regular basis of their data. How often do the backup operators have to be deployed to support autonomous driving? So we do have a requirement for them to report back to us the data, and also let us know the stability of their projects, whether there's any room for us to relax our conditions and so forth.
For future routes, we are talking to the operators or future operators. Now, for autonomous vehicles, what we want is in terms of the type of vehicles, would it not just be small cars, but also buses, which can be utilized? We would want to see that. So we are talking to the operators concerning the vehicles that they produce or use. And also for road situations, there may be certain specific and straightforward routes, and there can be roads which are more complex with turnarounds, etc. So we'll be looking at these as well. Next, Eric Yim. So if this is to last for 5 years, within the 5 years, what are some of the objectives for this position? Now, for autonomous driving, it is advancing very quickly. For Shenzhen, autonomous driving taxis have already been in use. So for this post in the next 2 years, let's say for autonomous driving minibuses or taxis, would that be a goal? Thank you for the question. For autonomous vehicles development, in our PPT presentation just now, we mentioned that we have short-term and medium-term objectives. Within this year, what we want to achieve is to have more cross-district pilot schemes launched. We now already have certain pilot parties. After testing in the airport island, we want that to be extended to, let's say, Sunny Bay or even further to see whether autonomous vehicles can be stable and be developed even further. And also for the medium term, we may consider cross-border for some of the cross-boundary. So for some of the ports, perhaps we can consider auto vehicles operation. And also, our ultimate goal, of course, is to have commercialization of auto vehicles. If this comes to pass, then we will also have to consider this in the franchise license as well. Now, there is an advantage for the 2023 planning, and that is these vehicles can also be licensed just as the ordinary or regular vehicles. So in the future, this can be inclusive of auto vehicle operation. Now, if these auto vehicles are to be used in licensed vehicles routes and also for public transport, we would want that we have this particular post with technical capability so that the person can give technical input to tell us at licensing point, for example, whether these auto vehicles can be used in commercial environment, for example, as transport, a part of public transport, or for goods vehicles. Do you have a timetable, please? Yes, timetable. Well, for one of the Sky City airline, we are working with them. So we hope to achieve this by the end of this year. Next, Charles Siu Chung. Yes, I am in support of maintaining this particular chief electrical engineer post. And it was in 2018 that this post was recommended. And in 2021, there was a working group for safety. And at the time, there were 3 same level posts created. I would like to talk about the other 2 posts. One also expiring in July with the role of interchange service for buses and also bus captains, facilities, and monitoring their rest time and support, etc. So for that post, will it be cancelled after July? And what then for the work involved? Will it be absorbed by a DE, safety director, or what? And also the 3 posts created then, there is a safety director post. Will that be maintained, that post? Because we see from number 5 of your paper that for this chief electrical engineer post, there seems to be some indication that the safety director post would be re-established or maintained. What is the situation, please? Well, in answer to the question, in 2021, when we created the post, was because there was an independent review committee. And so for franchise buses, it was thought that there was work to be done. And now we know that auto driving will take the someone from the transport department to push it forward. And therefore, we have asked this chief engineer to also take up the role of auto driving. As for the safety director, for franchise buses, it is a very important or the biggest supplier outside of rail on the road. And therefore, it also has a large passenger capacity. So we are reviewing the post, and it will extend to the end of the year. And overall, the government will need to control our structure. And so we are looking at it to see other colleagues in the transport department, how they're doing. And but this is a long-term work. Yes, for the safety review of buses, my question was, if you cancel that post, who's going to take up that post? Yes, the assistant director can take up that post. That's my answer. Lothair LAM, I'm in support of retaining this post because for smart driving in Hong Kong compared to cities around us, we are slow. Shenzhen already has it, and this year, middle of this year, on the airport city link, there will be utilization of auto vehicles as well. But I think we can, Hong Kong, take up the R&D for AVs. But what I'm worried about is actually maintenance personnel for AVs. And mostly these are electric vehicles. And even for electric vehicles maintenance with VTC having a training course for such personnel, but still there are few and far between entrants from the younger generation into this profession or trade. And also there will have to be certain investments for the owner for EVs. and the maintenance cannot be done by the regular garage. So my question is, for the routes open for AVs, where is the maintenance staff? Is it the operators who will train their own and provide their own? But in the longer term, is there a more comprehensive plan for supplying this kind of personnel? Thank you, Mr. Lam, for the questions. For the structure of the electric vehicle, it is more or less the same as the traditional vehicle, but there are certain support systems. But we have a chief engineer and my back who is very knowledgeable of testing of these vehicles, and he can supplement. Now, for maintenance of the electric vehicles and the operation of them, in the pilot scheme, we have already asked the operators to be equipped with the capabilities in this connection. Perhaps Mr. Mr. Chung can supplement. Well, actually, apart from the auto driving system, the rest is basically the same as the traditional vehicles. For the operators concerned, they have commissioned Hong Kong local maintenance centers to do regular daily maintenance. So these are Hong Kong car companies helping to do the maintenance. And because it is more professional and there are few of these vehicles, so where necessary, the operators bring the vehicles, or the operators will have mainland personnel do the maintenance. Chair, I'm concerned about how we can support the development of auto driving. For the blueprint for auto driving in the future, we can imagine that it's a very important element in developing smart cities. So where auto driving is going to be big, a lot of professional drivers will lose their jobs. So has the government planned for this from manpower and retraining point of view? For example, for retraining and for personnel, new vehicles, AVs, maintenance, data analysis, creating new jobs around it, basically. Any plans? Well, thank you for the question, Mr. Jiang. We do see a lot of advantages for auto driving in developing smart city in Hong Kong, in stability and safety. This is definitely a direction we're going into. But of course, even for the transport sector, we have a stringent supply or low supply of personnel and manpower. In the previous topic, some members have talked about the manpower and personnel supply. For auto driving, as we develop it, we believe that there will be new jobs types created. For example, there will be operators in the vehicle, even if it's totally auto driving, there will be distance control centers. So there will be new staff employed at these distance control centers, and there are data analysis as mentioned. And yes, we are very cognizant of that, about the ancillary services. Aaron BOK. 2 questions, but in the main, I'm in support of maintaining or retaining this post. The question is, why is this still a time-limited post? Because this post is about promoting bus technology and promoting auto driving. It's a long-term work. It's not going to end within 5 years. Technology is changing all the time. For this chief E&M engineer who is actually needed all for the long term, it should not be time limited. It should be a long-term post. And also for the Macau, Zhuhai, Hong Kong bridge, cross-boundary, 3 lands operation, the vehicles will have to have insurance coverage and the 3 lands data utilization, analysis, etc. So what is the gap now? First of all, which policy bureau will be responsible for this, and is there a timeline for doing this? First of all, I thank the support for this item. Now, for the government, we are cautious in controlling our civil service structure. And yes, there is a clear direction going forward, and it is true that there is very rapid development in this particular area. So our present thinking is to keep the post for 5 years, and if needed, we'll come back to the LegCo for lengthening. And as for cross-boundary traffic, we are looking ahead. We're not just looking at our local need here in Hong Kong, but let's say the bridge, as you mentioned, is a good testing point, the Hong Kong-Macau Zhuhai Bridge. Of course, the 3 governments will have to talk amongst each other. So far, the indication has been positive. As I mentioned before, in Hong Kong, we already have legislation, so it's rather clear. For us, the next step, we will be talking with the other governments in the 3 lands as to their legal requirements. This is at a preliminary stage only, but it's definitely something that we have to resolve, because at the end, it will have to be confident and it will have to be safe and comprehensive. So, thank you.
So,
Next one, Lam Wai Kong. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members, for expressing concern about promotion of autonomous driving and whether we can commercialize it. And that, however, could lead to lots of jobs among drivers. Indeed, professional drivers do worry about their jobs. So in promoting AVs, have you considered any balancing measure to stop any across the board policy causing thousands of drivers to lose their job? Even though some drivers can upgrade themselves, but please note that for professional drivers, they tend to be quite old and have limited education, so their ability to learn new skills is limited. So I hope that for some vehicle types, like vehicles accommodating large number of passengers, I've noticed that for some railway lines, there are actually additional staff deployed to monitor the services and take care of the situation when emergency happens. So in creating this post, of course, you will pay attention to designs for bus safety. Several years ago, the low-platform buses now are more and more common, and that, however, causes the seat of the bus drivers to be lowered as well. So a few years ago, a bus collided with a truck, and that was a major traffic accident. And because of the low platform of the bus itself, the protective equipment for the driver actually turned out to be inadequate. So we need to consider how to protect the safety of bus captains. Thank you, Mr. Lam. As for the impact on drivers, we'll definitely pay attention to that. Of course, in promoting AVs, there will be no need for drivers. But of course, as I said, in the entire operations, there will be new posts to be created. And for the transportation sector, if we were to have a large-scale AVs in operation, we will have to see that happen on a gradual basis. We will be careful as we progress towards that wider adoption of AVs, but I think instead of the younger drivers, they would want to enhance or upgrade their skills. So for the newly created posts in the future, I'm sure the young drivers would like to learn the skills involved and migrate to higher end posts. For low platform buses, we'll follow that up. Next one, Alan Chan. I'm very pleased to see that the Transport Department does not lag behind in promoting AVs in the states and mainland cities. They have taken the lead to promote AVs, and they will lead the trend. Hong Kong, compared to other Asian countries, we're not lagging behind either. So we support the retention of the chief engineering post, the time-limited post. In the past 5 years, in promoting bus safety equipment, much has been achieved. Number of accidents dropped, and AVs were extended to 62 vehicles in tens of districts. So we now are going to extend the AV service to Airport CityLink, and also there's also the digital mirror to be tested and broadly used, possibly. So I have the two questions. In promoting AVs, the post concerned, are you going to have any coordination mechanism with the Greater Bay Area, particularly in relation to the Airport CityLink project? And have you considered extending testing of AVs to fixed short cross-boundary routes or golden bus routes? Commissioner, as for applying AVs in what sorts of public services, we have an open attitude. So it depends on the testing results, what types of services are suitable for the vehicles being tested by the operators. So we'll see how compatible various vehicles are with different areas. And as for cross-district or cross-boundary projects, within our department, we are having discussions, and in our working group, we also have interdepartmental representatives, including the police, to give opinions and advice for us. And in promoting cross-boundary projects, we do want to involve more enterprises, and we want to have also staff from Invest Hong Kong to join the mechanism to play coordinating role to attract the interest of enterprises and so forth, and see what support is needed. Commissioner, in relation to the standards for AVs, have you coordinated with mainland authorities? Any time frame? For cross-boundary projects, we want to, first of all, explore through the Hong Kong, Guangdong, Macau, Zhuhai Bridge, and with the management authorities, we will discuss it with the governments in Macau and Guangdong to see how we can further promote the use of AVs. Next one, Christine Fong. I do support the development of AVs. Commissioner has said that you issue 6 pilot licenses covering 62 vehicles, and there are 6 points where there are large-scale testing, like in northern Lantao or West Kowloon Cultural District. My concern is the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Park or Industry Park. Are they being considered also? It's a testing ground. And also I support retaining the chief engineer post. But you also mentioned about there's engineering work that looks at the safety aspect, and so you also said that you want to published a code on equipping and safety devices and equipment. But in terms of safety engineer work, in enhancing fire safety equipment, are there fire prevention blanket or fire extinguisher? Are they equipped? Are buses equipped with also the above equipment? So can you think of asking the engineer to consider increasing the installation of safety equipment on board AVs? So I think the chief engineer can respond later. As for, we now issue 6 pilot licenses, but there are other pilot schemes which cover, for example, with funding from the Smart Transport Fund, which haven't applied from us the licenses yet. But the Innovation and Technology Park on cross-boundary shuttle buses, they may want to use autonomous driving as well. So we hope that through our working group, we can look into, under the current pilot scheme, whether there are any roads or areas like tunnels where testing should be carried out. So we want to cover more scenarios, possible locations for use of autonomous driving. So Chief Engineer, can you answer the second question? Talking about buses, local buses, their body actually meet the international standard for fire prevention. And the engines on board buses also have a high heat alert system to ensure that the vehicle is equipped to stand the test of fires. So if the bus burn on its own, so how can the passengers be dispersed? Mr. Chung, we will also, for autonomous vehicles, they would need to comply with 5 safety requirements. And there are also 5 extinguishers which will be put on board the autonomous vehicles as well. I think most of the members have spoken, and they have expressed support for the retention of the post. So we will make the recommendation to the establishment subcommittee. AOB, no. So I think meeting adjourned. Thank you.